My question is actually for General Evans. So I did CTLT with your old battalion in the 160th, and I was just wondering, being surrounded by such great characters and having the opportunity to lead the regiment, what were your key takeaways from it?
One of the interesting things about being in a special operations unit is you have the ability to assess the people into it that you want. The Army's a pretty large organization, so we don't always have that opportunity in the unit. But the Army is full of good people, good soldiers, good civilians. We certainly are supported by great families. So I think the takeaway that I had from it was, whatever the job is that you're doing, do it well. I tell young leaders all the time, I tell battalion commanders all the time, and those who are being looked at for battalion command, and this is particularly important for you as you start to think about what you want to branch. And for the very small percentage of you that may not get the branch that you want at the top of your list, don't focus too much on that, because all soldiers deserve to be well led. And that's important. So keep that in mind, keep that in the forefront of what you do when you're out there. Everybody deserves the best from you, and I will steal a line from my boss, General Steve Townsend, who is fond of saying, be the leader you want to be led by. Because I think that's important.
All right, we have another question.
Good morning, I'm Cadet Evans, Wofford College. My question for the panel today is, just how impactful are y'all's voices in the military, and how do y'all incorporate ethics into making the best decision?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a, I think you said it's for anybody. And so in terms of the first part of it, again, first of all, very insightful question in terms of being impactful. Our voices, in my mind, are the most impactful when we're doing this. When we're out talking to you and sharing lessons learned about what it's going to take. It's not about being a general, but what it's going to take to be successful in life. A lot of the things that you're going to have us talking to you about, doesn't matter whether you decide to serve 32 years like I did, like Wes is doing, and Nadia, and Jimmy Richardson, a good friend of mine up here. It's got nothing to do with that. It's about life's lessons. So I think to your question, and we're limited here on time, we are, in my mind, most impactful when we're investing in you, when we're out seeing you and we're talking to you, and having conversations just about this idea of reinvesting and committing yourself, because one day you're going to be sitting in these jobs, to reinvesting in the next greatest generation. That's my thoughts on this idea of us being impactful.
Yeah, I think lessons to the ethics part, it's extremely important to be a person of good moral character. Our Army values should not just be a little acronym that we learn because it all adds up to leadership, the LDR and all that. It's more than that. It has to be inculcated to who you are every single day because that's how you can be impactful. One of the things that Bruce mentioned, how to be impactful individuals, but first you have to be competent in your area. You have to be a person of character so your word is trusted when you're giving advice or giving leadership information. And then you have to have, I think an empathy and caring for the person or the people that you're trying to lead and influence, to try to see their position on things. And so you don't have to be, as Bruce said, general officers. I tell my young soldiers, there was a private, I said, you are leading people whether you want to or not, because just by your presence, people are watching you, people are observing you, and so you are making a leadership statement whether you want to or not, because there's always someone younger than you. For me, there's a lot of people younger than you, but there's someone that's younger than you that looks up to you, and they're watching you. They're trying to see if you have anything that they want to emulate. And so, like I said, you never know. You never know who's watching you. And I've had people come up to me even earlier in my career that says, you don't know, you met me on this date, and you spoke to me in the hallway, and that made a difference. And it's like, well, wow, that's something very simple. But, so that's kind of what I would say is being impactful, being yourself and understanding that you are a role model to someone, to every single day, in every action that you take. So that's what I was going to add to that. Thanks.
So, I'm Les Smith, I'm the Inspector General for the Army, we do the show. So now you guys are good. So we can turn it on. So, your presence matters more than what you think. And the presence, I mean by being present in your units, being present as a leader, makes a difference. And the reason why we are here today is because people had presence on us to help us get to where we are. That is the other reason that Bruce said that we do that. The other thing I would tell you, you have to help each other. So all of us on the front row here have helped each other at one point in time. And that's what the Army is looking for you to do. Y'all know what Spotlight Rangers are, right? No Spotlight Rangers. But the Army needs you to help each other be successful, especially when you're in deployed situations, but even not in those locations, because that's what we need you to do in order to accomplish the mission.
I'm Alvin Sendit, talking over here in the corner. I'm currently the Chief of Staff of the Army Reserve, so the program's a little outdated as far as on my bio. It's probably my mistake. But what I would say is each one of you right now demonstrate the ethics to others as you walk around, as you go get gasoline at the gas station and you're wearing a uniform. So it's already started for you. And so you need to understand that everything that you do, the actions that you take speak a lot louder than the words that you want to pass on to someone else. So it's the way that you act, the decisions that you make, how you treat others when you're in uniform and out of uniform, and people know that you're in the Army. So it's something that has to be cognizant that you are always setting an example for everyone around you, whether it's your community members or other folks in the Army.
Just one point I'll add, Dean's Beagle over here. If you listen to what everybody said, somebody said to me, we can demonstrate everything that the Army wants you to do. Leadership, physical fitness, treat others with dignity and respect. You can do all that. But on occasion, use words. On occasion, use words. Whatever you heard everybody say is about demonstrate. Do what I do. Watch me. That type of thing. At your level, that is going to be extremely important. As platoon leaders, down at the company level, places where you're going to be, you're right where the rubber meets the road. You're right there. You're going to make that impact immediately. But it's going to be from those that are watching. You know, so again, you can do all these things. It doesn't take a lot of long, drawn-out conversations to do it. You can do all those things, but on occasion, you may have to use words. But otherwise, you're gonna model. You're gonna want everybody to watch you. You're gonna demonstrate the right thing to do day in and day out.
So we only have 2 minutes left for this topic, but I did want to talk about the first question of how impactful are you? If you just look at this table right here, especially to my left and my right, these individuals are changing the Army. They're changing how this Army is run. And they're also impacting the joint force. So their voices are extremely impactful. But that leads into what you are doing. So as General Crawford said, the important thing is that you are learning to gain your voice and to know how impactful you can be at your level, but at every level. And impact what you can, where you can, and then strive to make things better at every level that you're at.
Tia Young on this end. I think in simple put, is your word is your bond. And that means that when you tell a soldier something, they expect that you are going to keep your word. Cool? So that right there sets the baseline. Baseline of Army values, but remember the foundation that you were reared upon. Couple those with the Army values and keeping your word, then you're setting the example. You can see the impact of your actions. But you are always being watched. Whether it's in Piggly Wiggly, IGA, at the grocery store, or at Ruby Tuesday, you are always being watched to see what does right look like. So make sure you stay on the right side of right.
All right, we have another question here on the left.
Good morning, Generals. I'm Cadet Reyes from Citadel, Bomber Battalion. My question is following. With the rising conflicts in the South American continent, more specifically Venezuela, and the intervention of like some Russian, military actions over there, would you see a future United States military engagement in the South American country?
I'll take that. It's one of my kids. Hey, so it's a great question, and it's the types of things you need to be thinking about as an ROTC cadet. It's the types of things you need to be thinking about as you're studying at colleges and universities. But our goal here as senior military leaders is to follow policy that is produced by and endorsed by the Department of Defense and our senior leaders. So if we're a little ahead of putting the cart a little bit before the horse when it comes to what we may or may not do in different parts of the world. Your responsibility as an officer, though, is once you have that mission, is to analyze it and go out and lead the men and women that are in your charge so that you can execute the best way you can. I refer to the Army principal staff members if they'd like to.
I think you nailed it. The bottom line is, we've got to be prepared to go to war anywhere. Okay, and that's what you are preparing yourself to do. And we prepare every day as an Army to deploy anywhere in the world to protect our nation as well as our partners. And so, not to focus on any particular country. That's why you're here. You're the future of our Army. You need to be looking at this. We are looking at it daily. And our focus today is really on you, the future. I am the Deputy Commanding General of the Army Futures Command, working on the equipment and the technology that we're going to put in your hands 20, 25 years from now. That is my focus. My focus is on you, but my focus also is on preparing for combat. That's why we're here. And so don't worry about a particular country. We follow the policy of our leaders. Right, but we prepare ourselves every day, both mentally, physically, and our soldiers daily. So you just need to make sure as a cadet that you're tactically and technically proficient in whatever trade, whatever branch you're going to be, and that's where your focus should be.
Yeah, I think the key points that have been made that have to do with the policy. Policymakers will set policy. And as a soldier wearing the cloth of this great nation, your job will be to execute based on that policy. All right. But the broader piece here, our national defense strategy talks about this era of great power and competition, where it's expected that every domain that you operate in, whether it's the cyber domain or just globally around the world, it is going to be challenged. It is likely to be turbulent. And so leadership, piece here, foot stomp, your ability to operate in ambiguous situations will kind of be one of those things that you're going to have to get really, really good at. All right. Some people are really, really good when it's black and white. I know exactly what I need to do. But it's when you've got ambiguous situations around the world, back to this era of great power competition, that is likely, you're for the foreseeable future around the globe, you're going to see this type of thing. You're going to have to learn how to operate in that space, in that gray space, when it's not black, it's not white, it's not really clean cut as to what you've got to do. So my lesson to you, again, you want to draw a lesson from each one of these questions. A great question is perfect the art of being able to do that, because it's more art than science associated with it. And is being able to operate and be comfortable in ambiguous situations. I think it was Joan McChrystal who said, get comfortable being uncomfortable. This is a great example, and that question reminds me of that quote by one of our former 4-star generals.
So if I could piggyback off of that, this is Joan Bellinger. I'm in command of the training command in the Army Reserve. And I can tell you that, a couple things that really touched on my thoughts in the presence of the 2 3-stars that spoke is that, we have to not only be able to operate in an ambiguous environment, but with limited resources in a way that demands creativity from our youth. And I say that because not all the time are you going to have the resources you need to get the job done. And I appreciate General Richardson with Futures Command putting technology and equipment in our hands. But I'm going to tell you, in a resource-constrained environment, we see it every single day where we're challenged to do with things that we may not have readily at our fingertips. And so we have to be able to learn how to still get a job done with resources we may or may not have and be able to execute. All right, and that, while it may, it's really a lot more challenging, put into action than something you read about in books. But I will tell you that history has a way of repeating itself. We've seen this happen time and time again. I think that as we progress in an environment that is, where we have to operate in all kinds of domains, your ability to be flexible and adapt to that is going to be critical to the success of the organization. Thanks.
Thanks, and I would also like to add, that's a great question because it shows that you're reading and you're keeping aware of what's going on in our environment, which is going to be very important. And I tell my team that I was just in a pre-command course earlier this week in San Antonio for the medical professionals, that yes, you have to perfect your craft and whatever you are in your military occupational specialty, but you have to understand the environment so you can be good advisors to your leaders. So as a senior medical advisor to the chief and secretary, I have to understand, I just can't learn about my medical craft and so I can give them a lecture on, how to treat malignant melanoma, which is mildly interesting to them as a dermatologist. That's important to me, but not only am I a medical professional, I'm a military medical professional, that's different, because I have to understand the strategic environment. And I tell my team members they have to understand what our Army strategy is. They have to understand what the purpose of our Army is and what we're looking for in the future. The new Army strategy that talks about that we have to be ready to deploy, fight, and win our nation's battles in an environment that's joint, multi-domain, and high intensity. Do all that, win, while deterring others who might do us harm, just roughly, kind of paraphrasing. So what does that mean to us as medical professionals? And I'll steal a line from General Perkins, the former TRADOC commander, who always said, understand what you do in each one of your areas, but also remember what you're for, and how what you do in your professional craft relates to the overall mission of our Army. And I think that's one that's really important to keep your eye out there so you can know what's on the horizon in your area that might be militarily relevant. Like, for example, the Ebola crisis. I had to understand that might be a military relevant issue even though it's medical, and it turned out to be in the future. So you have to understand your craft and how that relates to the Army and what the Army needs to ensure that we're successful in all domains and what we're being asked to do. So it's great that you keep your mind open on what's going on in the world.
I'd like to add to that. So that shows you're very relevant with current topics, right? What's going on in the world. Who here owns a smartphone? Keep your hands up. Okay? Keep your hands up if you have an automatic news feed popping in as an alert and messages. Okay, some of you are being honest. That's great. That's what you need to do. And when you see those news feeds, I ask you to just think critically. Think a couple of notes. Are we going to be there? Say a disaster piece comes out, or those kids in Thailand getting stuck in a cage, right? Where could our Army be? What can we do? What might you be getting ready to do? So great, thanks. Keep it up.
What a great dialogue. We do have a question from South Carolina State.
Good morning, officers. Cadet Jeff Cole from South Carolina State University. My question is, when y'all have hurdles where you don't disagree, when you disagree with the chain of command, how do y'all overcome that and meet on the same playing field?
I think the foundation of any, so we're always going to disagree. There will be disagreements. You're going to have many. But I think the foundation and the thing that allows you to kind of get beyond some of the trivial things and actually get to a space where you can move, advance the cause, whatever the topic has to be, or solve the problem, is trust. It's character. Jim Richardson and I were two-star commanders about 3 years ago. Nadia West and I, we worked together every day. West, I've known him since I was a major, et cetera, et cetera. We don't always agree on everything, but there are a couple of things that drive us towards a solution, and that is that we're trusted. All right. If Jim Richardson is taking a position on something, I'm taking it very seriously. But there is nothing that prevents me. I feel very comfortable being calling Jimmy, going, okay, Jim, here's a position you took out in Austin, Texas on something. Here's what I heard. And we solve it right there on the spot. They're going. And And so when you don't have trust in an organization, things start to bubble up, people start to go to the neutral corners, and all of a sudden you have a crisis that you could have taken care of very easily because I might not know the person personally, but there's trust based on that person's reputation, which leads me to the last point. The most valuable asset that you have as a leader of any kind, in any profession, in my mind, is your reputation. Okay? And that reputation has to be based on, again, are you trusted? Are you a person of high character? And in the end, are you genuinely the kind of person who cares about people? So all of these differences, and I'll get off stage and let somebody else talk, a lot of the problems that we end up dealing with, if you are trusted, if you are a person of high character with a reputation that represents who you are, then a lot of these things, the problems that we deal with on a daily basis aren't problems at all. We solve them just like that. That makes sense.
So let's look again. The thing I would tell you is that first, don't take it personal. Second, keep it professional. And then also you gotta take a second to understand that there's someone else's viewpoint. But the bigger thing, especially as you deal with your peers, which is a lot of things you gotta do while you're in the program, is understand the higher vision. And so as leaders, you got your mission that you're doing, but you gotta give them the intent. So hey, let me tell you, this is our mission, but this is why we have to do it. And if everyone understands that, then we should all be pushing toward the same mission. And then your platoon that you're going to be in charge of, your staff section, is perceived through you as a leader. Okay? So the importance of this thing is that if they see you as a person who can get along, that's how you get to the next point. But if it's somebody who you cannot get along with others, you can go do something else. Because we don't need somebody that's all about me. It's all about my opportunity. It's all about my company, so on and so forth. Understanding the bigger vision is what the Army and the nation need you to do. Over.
I'll add something. General Evans, Command. Absolutely agree with what General Smith and General said, particularly with regards to trust. And kind of to your point, with Admiral McCraven, who's an old mentor of mine, Navy SEAL, used to say you can't search trust. You got to build it over time. And so if you're a brand new lieutenant, you're here with unit, you haven't had an opportunity to build that trust relationship with show command yet, you might find yourself in a little bit of an ethical dilemma when you don't understand or you don't necessarily agree with something the chain of command says. So I think it's important that you learn to communicate early. Understand how your boss likes to communicate and use that to create shared understanding. As we talk about mission command in the Army, you hear that term come up a lot, shared understanding. What is it that we all appreciate about the mission and about what our tasks and purpose are that allows us to move in one direction? So I think communication and building those communication skills early, both written and oral, is very important for your officers.
And I would just briefly add that if you go into an organization and there's no disagreement, dig a little deeper. Because you might be in an organization where there's concern of bringing different views to the forefront. Because as you heard my colleagues say, professionalism, you can disagree, but how you do it is important. You be professional and not take it personally, which is sometimes really hard to do. But if you see no disagreement, everybody's like, yeah, this is great. That means others that have ideas that might be able to improve the organization either aren't being heard or do not feel that they're in an environment where they can safely bring up information. So if you don't see disagreement, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but maybe look deeper and making sure that others, and the quiet ones who may not say anything, make sure you have a mechanism to bring them out to add their voice to the table.
I would also offer, when you have these disagreements and and discussions with your sergeants that are going to be over, have that discussion behind closed doors, hear each other's side, and then when you walk out the door, you show that you and your person are on the same sheet of music. Because again, you're being watched. When you're trying to give your boss information, give them the best information that you have, because your opinion matters and it's valued. But once a decision is made, when you walk through that door, you sell that as if it was your decision. To support your command.
All right, so it sounds like we're good on that question. Okay, so UNC Charlotte is up next. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Cadet Velasquez. I'm from UNC Charlotte. My question to the panel is, what has been your most rewarding experience as an Army leader throughout your career so far?
Can I take that one first?
Go ahead.
My greatest accomplishment is the greatest accomplishment of those below me. And I don't say that just because we're here, I've said that for many, many years. What gives me the greatest job satisfaction is to see that major now making lieutenant colonel, that my former aide now being a company commander. That is truly, I feel, my greatest accomplishment, is mentoring those below me and seeing those successes.
Yeah, so growing up right here in Columbia, about 5 miles from here, spent my whole life. I think I rode my first airplane at airborne school at an ROTC. It's not about my greatest accomplishment, but I'd say to the question, I'd say it's this. I'd say it's watching. We talked about this next greatest generation. It's having an opportunity to do this, and it's seeing those that you've had an opportunity to mentor over the years start to, see that mentorship start to take shape. See them start to advance in your careers, whatever those careers happen. Those are the things that give me the most joy. And to come full circle, so the guy sitting about 2 people to my right, just to give an example of how that works. As a young ROTC cadet, over 30 years ago, there was a young captain, now retired Major General here, Abe Turner, who sat, as I sat in your spots, and he was a captain who mentored me. And so as I have been promoted over the years, I could see the joy, and that's a great example that they set for me and these guys' eyes. And said, man, I made a difference, right? And so the big takeaway for me, great question, it's exactly what you just said, but it's nothing to do with me and more about I had an opportunity to make a difference, and I made my vote count, and I'm now seeing that person make something, whatever it happens to be, of themselves. That's the thing that gives me the greatest joy. But that example is something that was passed down to me by the example that was set by then Captain Abe Turner, probably 35 years ago or so, when I was an MS2 ROTC cadet, when life changed for me when I met him for the first time. And you guys can figure out what that meant on the PT field and other things at South Carolina State. So it's just a lesson to you, just something to think about. It can never be about you. Right? If it gets to the point, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, teacher, whatever it is, and it's about you, then you probably need to take a step back and re-examine the direction that you're headed. And I just leave you with that point.
One of the themes that you're hearing is just that privilege to lead. You can't look at that as an accomplishment, but I had a boss tell me, any organization that you go into, you take that roster, whether it be your platoon roster, company roster, even on the staff. I heard one of the young company grade officers talk about their staff time, even on the staff, take that roster. And several years down the road, bring that thing back out and look and see where they're at. Have they gotten promoted? Are they in different positions like you heard about? That's your impact. That's your success right there. It's not going to be a personal success. It's going to be the success you enable others to have based on your impact, your influence, and those things that you've done. So it's just the privilege to lead. When you think about what we do as an Army, you don't see that anywhere else. We start leadership off at this level. Unlike businesses, unlike anywhere else you see in the world, we start training leadership, educating on leadership very early on. And what do you do with that? It's how you give that back to others to see them succeed. So again, first platoon you go into, I highly recommend take that roster, fold it, put it away. 10 years from now, from that point, take it out. See where they are. Where are those engineers? Where are those officers? That'll let you know your impact.
So,
Mark?
yes,
First of all, I'm a General Aid term retired, spent 35 years in active duty, SC State Guard, passed in 1976. And I'm a paratrooper, I'm very proud of it. I walked in from the drill sergeant school, changing command just now here 4 times because I gave my word to the class that I would attend the change of command that took place at 10 o'clock this morning, so I just gave it as I do. Please accept my kindness. Greatest accomplishment. It has to be any assignment I've had where I've had to touch the lives of young soldiers and help mold young soldiers and show standards, where standards should be for them in their daily occupation, would be one of those greatest moments. But let me preface the answer by saying this. Right now, where you are, it may be hard for you to even fathom in your minds. And I'm not, this is not a cut, I'm just telling you what it is. It's pretty hard for you to listen to generals sit up here and talk to you about where success is down the road. It's pretty hard. But you have to trust. You have to trust that the techniques and all of the best practices are practices that will work for you. I think it starts with changing an attitude from where you are right now to becoming a superintendent. Let me tell you what that attitude is. The attitude is you have to forget about yourself and you have to think about that young soldier, that NCO, that looks towards you for answers every day they come into work. You've got to make that adjustment. You've got to make that adjustment from you to that private or that young NCO that's working for you. And once you make that adjustment mentally, and you focus on them, and you take care of them, you take care of their family, but you what? The mission will happen. The mission will happen because, guess what? They were doing the mission way before you showed up. Think about it, lieutenants, soon-to-be lieutenants. They were doing the mission way before you ever showed up. So how can you conceivably believe that you know more about what that platoon sergeant is doing than he does or she does when he just came on board and they've been doing it for like a year or so? That's not always every case now, but just think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. So I say, any position that you move into where you have the responsibility to take care of those young soldiers directly will be very rewarding moments for you. And my most rewarding moments have been being a training company commander at Fort Benning, Georgia, being a company commander at 82nd Airborne Division, battalion commander at 82nd Airborne Division, brigade commander at Fort Benning, Georgia, and post-commanding general here at Fort Jackson, where I had the awesome responsibility to take care of soldiers each and every day, all of those command jobs. Those are my most impressive and memorable moments.
All right, great. Our next question is from the Gamecock Battalion, and then they'll be followed by the Palmetto Battalion.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenneth Woolman, and I'm an MS2 from the University of South Carolina. My question has to do with, we currently have a commander-in-chief that likes to tweet often, and I'm kind of curious, what is it like to deal with objectives that impact your lives when you're getting orders from the top that might be controversial or might be changing over time, and how you deal with that with your soldiers, with yourselves? Thank
These guys have important careers.
I think General Richardson said that. He had a game cop.
I'll tell you, it's a great question. It's something that goes through everybody's mind, right? And again, it's something you need to be thinking about because this is your role soon. You have to absolutely go in, regardless of what your personal beliefs are, and separate yourself from the political spectrum in the military. That's your responsibility as an officer. When you take your oath of office, it won't be to the president or the Congress. It won't be to the chief of staff of the Army or the secretary. It will be to the Constitution. So your responsibility is to draw that very clean separation right there. And then what you got to do is you got to help your soldiers understand that as well, which is probably even a bigger task. Because right now, we all know how fractious things can be in that political spectrum. You've got to step away from it and know that when you have to ask young men and women to do dangerous things, important things, they have to do it without that political layer over top of it. Unless that maybe kind of sidestepping your question, that's our responsibility. George Marshall, one of the greatest general officers in the history of our Army, never voted. He felt so strongly that he needed to separate himself from the political spectrum, he didn't cast a vote. So think about what your methods are going to be.
I would just add to that, sir, that you have to just take a step back and remember what the Army's for. The Army's a force provider to support a geographical combatant commander, execute an operation that's being directed or that's being developed and by the Army or by that combatant command staff. But it's really at the direction of the President. So if we separate from what we're really supposed to be doing, that's our key focus. And again, falling back onto the loyalty being to the Constitution, not to any one individual. So it becomes a very simple thing to do to go about your daily business to make sure that your unit is prepared and ready to fight as fast as you need to fight.
Yeah, the only other point I was going to make, being in the information technology business, and so there's been an evolution, to be quite honest with you. I'd say probably over the last 4 or 5 years, where there's been almost an acceptance that opinions, in some particular cases, high level opinions will be shared via social media. So why do you believe that is? I think a lot of it actually has to do with you, because as it was brought up earlier, that's where you consume your news. So we can sit back and go, hey, here's the methods we use to disseminate information and generate dialogue and stimulate the intellectual curiosity, and you have to come to us. I think what you're seeing now, and it's likely going to continue to evolve, is those at the highest levels recognize that that's where you get your news. That's where your opinions are formed. And so I would suspect, again, great question, that you'll see more of that. But to the point, the thing you have to understand is when you utter those 72 words that are the oath of office, all right, and you all, at some point, if you don't have it memorized, you will trust it, because you'll recite it a lot over time. It has to do, you've got to keep in your mind that you're equal, that you know two sides when you were the father of the nation, and that your job at its core will be to prepare for and conduct war. And that's what the Army does. And so as long as you focus on that, and acknowledge that social media is a part of our lives now, that round's already left the chamber, so to speak, then you're going to be okay. I think you've gotten good counsel up here so far about this idea of remaining apolitical and focusing on your mission and what you've sworn and uttered those 72 words to do with respect to the oath of office that you will do. You do that, and then I think you're going to be fine.
All right, so the Palmetto Battalion.
My name is Sarah Zorn. I'm an MS4 from the Palmetto Battalion in Citadel. And my question is, if there was one or multiple things that you could do that you think would best perpetuate our Army for the future, what would those things be?
Hey, Sarah, can you repeat that, please?
Yes, sir.
So, use the mic so everybody can hear you. Over.
My question is, if there was one or multiple things that you could do to best perpetuate our Army and our legacy for the future, what would that be?
Doing what we're doing right now. And so we say demonstrate a post. The purpose of that is so you can walk somebody through the process. So we are here being your demonstrators to show you what you're supposed to do. Right? And as General Crawford said, to my right, the reason why I know that this is important is I saw leaders prior to me doing the same thing. So when you get in your units, in your staff sections, You got to do the same thing. That's how this process works. Because people developed us, so our job is to help develop you, so you would develop the next generation who are in basic combat training right now. It's coming to your future unit right now. It's going to look to you right now to be ready to do the mission that we don't even know is going to do, but you got to be ready to execute.
All right, our next question is from South Carolina State University.
Morning, my name is Jen Moxie, and I was wondering, we're graduating this year, and we're going to be, second lieutenants in the Army, and I wanted to know, what mistake did you all make that we can learn from so that we don't make the same mistakes?
How long do you have? Maybe we can get here till tomorrow.
Sir, I'll take that one. I will tell you, when I first started out, I went to then what was called OBC, and got there, graduated the class, came to my first duty station. They told me being an adjutant was all that in the bag of chips. And I drove up and I saw that the adjutant had a parking spot. And I was like, I have arrived. I walked inside that building and said, hey, I'm the adjutant, I'm Lieutenant Williamson reporting, where's my office? And the sergeant first class said, ma'am, you're not the adjutant, I am. You're on the back side of the building working in a company. So I'm going to tell you, learning humility. Humility is your friend, hubris is your enemy. But it was not going in there thinking I was all of that, and bag of chips to Major General retired Colonel's point. That unit was working very well before I got there.
So to continue on, like Joe Crawford said, we could be up here all day, but just a quick story. And we talked about demonstrating, what you demonstrate. So as a new lieutenant, you're all going to go in, and I would say your head's going to be a little bit swollen. You've got that bar on you, an officer, and a lot of people salute you, right? Or at least you think so. So I get to my unit, and I find the captain that I want to emulate. This captain is the most squared away in the time. That's who I'm going to emulate, because typically gets everything right. I emulate his salute. His salute kind of just straight knife hand right in the middle of your nose. Just thought that was kind of cool, actually. It wasn't the right thing, but it was just cool. Cool captain, I want to emulate that. So I get to a range, I find out the commanding general's coming to the range, and that was it. Nobody was coming to reinforce. Not the brigade commander, not the battalion commander. It was just lieutenant people and the CG's coming. Okay, he comes out to the range, I meet him at the helicopter, and I salute. We go out, he sees the range, and everything is immaculate. My non-commissioned officers have done a phenomenal job. Everything at the range ran like clockwork. He leaves, gets on the helicopter, goes back. I call back to my company and say, well, how did the visit go? The only thing the CG said was tell that lieutenant to fix his salute. Right, so be careful who you emulate. But you're going to make all kinds of mistakes, and we can all give you two pockets full of all those small mistakes and big mistakes. But what I'll tell you is, you're going to fail. That's hard to take. A lot of you are type A, type AAA, quadruple A, but you're going to fail. Right? You never walk in every day going, you're going to succeed at everything. You're going to fail at something. You're going to fail at something. It goes back to the point you heard of being comfortable, being uncomfortable. But you would fail at something, but how do you respond? That's going to be the key thing. How do you respond to failure? It may not be big failures. It will be minor little things. Right? Kind of like your experience now. You may fail a test. What do? You study harder, you go back to the books to try to get better. Or you just kind of take it for this word and go, okay, that's not my fault, that's somebody else's fault. But just understand that. It's not always about the mistakes. But understand, you will fail. It's going to be about how you respond to that failure. Over.
I think probably the biggest challenge and the biggest mistakes I made early on probably had to do with learning to trust others early on. And some of that was a product of my environment and how I came up here in Columbia. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, about 7 years, a single parent household raised by my grandparents in Ely Woods, who could read and write, and again had been told by my high school guidance counselor not to go to college. And so a big piece of that, you start to take, you get a little chip on your shoulder. And it's not an idea of it being about you, but you feel like you have to do everything. All right, that you have to not control everything, but you have to lead, because if you don't do it, you won't get it done. When you raise your right hand, and always go back to the oath, and I mention the oath a lot, and other than 73 words of the oath of office, for the first time in a lot of people's lives, you become a part of something that's bigger than self. And it's called the United States Army. All right? And the most trusted profession on earth, year in and year out, holds you. Because you raise your right hand and utter those 72 words, the oath of office, you have become a part of the most trusted profession on earth. And so becoming a part of that, and then having to teach myself and learn from others and examples of others that, okay, you gotta let go sometimes. And you gotta trust that if you explain to people why, and they understand the purpose that was mentioned earlier, that they will, and they trust you, they will execute on the mission will get done. That was really hard for second lieutenant Robert, all right? Fresh out of Ranger School, and I thought I knew everything, but Dave Turner told me I knew everything. I was out on stage, and you're bulletproof, all right? But it's not really so. You got to learn to trust others. And so I know that everybody in here comes from someplace different. We're all a product of our environments, but there are some things you're going to have to learn when you strap it on and become a part of the United States Army, other than 72 words. And it's going to be that you're going to have to trust your subordinates to execute things on your behalf. That was very difficult for me early on, just kind of as I was starting to kind of come up with the Army. And so it took a few years, but I was able to overcome that. Hopefully that's all.
So for me, I said two things. One of them is not listening. And later on the day, I'll tell you a story, and use it as a teaser, about getting counseled by a major promoter that's sitting to my right. But I want to tell you this story again. It's on you, sir, again. The other thing I would tell you is even more important is that you have to understand and respect other people's culture. Right? So today is the first day of Black History Month, right? And so the purpose of these observances is not for that person of that affinity. And I'm telling you this as leaders because you're going to have people from all different walks of life. You got to understand other people's cultures so you can understand where they're coming from. The purpose behind that is where we go is normal people don't look like us. And so you got to have a respect for the culture that you're going to. The way you learn that is from your platoon, your company, your battalion, right? So in your ROTC program, if somebody talks different than you, sometimes you make fun of them, right? Yeah, right. It's okay. It's okay to be a GTO delegate. I learned that. Right? It's true. I get educated. But my point I'm telling you is you got to learn and understand folks' cultures while you're young so you can use that as you grow. Because if you don't learn it, it's hard to learn it by the time you take it. And I even see today, my day job.
So my hardest job ever, from cadethood to brigadier general, and in this table, I think B stands for baby general, was being a platoon leader. That was the toughest job I ever had. Because why? It tested, the first thing was leadership. That was the first time you were out there, you were on display, and kind of the same things that others have been talking about. You think you know everything. And I had, at that time, I came into the unit, there was some things going on, some disciplinary issues. So I didn't know who I could trust. So I started to just rely on myself. Found things I wasn't doing right. But here's what I did do right. Staff Sergeant James Shelton, from a different platoon. I was an ambulance platoon, he saw I was really screwing up and screwing up a lot. Staff Sergeant James Shelton from treatment platoon, he said, "Get over here, Lieutenant. Let me tell you something." And Staff Sergeant Shelton taught me how to be a lieutenant. So I know that they taught you this at ROTC. I didn't listen to it initially about, letting that platoon sergeant lead the way. And again, it's a trusted agent. We built that relationship, and Staff Sergeant James Shelton and I still communicate to this day. He taught me how to be a lieutenant. When I was failing, I definitely listened to the right person.
So can I add to that, Tracy? Because I think this is a really important point that you bring up. I, like you, had a fantastic NCO who walked into my life, but not right away. when I became a second lieutenant, the biggest mistake I made was thinking that I was walking into a utopia and not realizing that the real world was about to hit me and hit me hard. And my first platoon sergeant that I had, the one that everyone tells you should you should wrap your arms around and get that person to teach you, was not the trusted agent in my organization. And I didn't know how to accept that right away when I had soldiers coming to me with their problems and challenges out of the gate, not realizing that I didn't have that person to mentor and coach me about how to deal with other people. And so now all of a sudden, you're kind of thrown into a nest and you have to learn how to figure it out. And so it didn't happen until about 6 months later for me when I got that NCO, who wound up coming to me from overseas. And as a brand new adjutant general, not knowing my field of specialty, not knowing a thing about even what a regulation looked like, he put books in front of me and taught me how to get smart on my craft. But he also taught me about people and taught me how to listen, which goes back to what I think General Crawford said about listening to other people. So I think when we talk about trust isn't just about the trust you have to earn with other people, but also the trust that you have to gain from them to do your job and do it well. And so I think it's a very twofold approach. It's okay to be skeptical. It's okay to not know everything, but know who you can turn to when you don't have that trusted NCO. And for me, it was another second lieutenant at the time who I was able to confide in.
So you've heard two examples. You've heard one example where the lieutenant comes into the organization and you've got a super duper NCO that's going to square you away as soon as you step in. On the other hand, you've heard a situation where the NCO comes in a little later. Okay, so there are two totally different scenarios. So here's what you do. You know that NCO that's assigned to your ROTC detachment, those NCOs you've got assigned to each of your universities out there, you ask them those questions and you go after them. And anytime you find another NCO you can talk to about their experiences with their new lieutenant, do that. Gain as much information as you can early on. Don't wait till the next 4 year. The next 1, 2, I don't think we have 3s and 4s now. But as soon as you can, engage with those NCOs that are right there. And then when you go to the ranges, when you go to other places to train, you see an NCO there, go to them and talk to them. They'll talk to you. They'll be more than happy to talk to you. But always step into your new organization with an open mind. An open mind, particularly with your commanders, okay? Because as a second lieutenant, I reported into my very first brigade commander. He was a guy named Jack Ferris, a Citadel grad. Okay, this is back in 1976, way back, a Citadel grad. This guy, I'm saying to myself, oh my God, SC State grad, stepping into this organization, Citadel grad. Okay, am I going to get a fair shake here? And here's what he did to me. I walked in and I said, Lieutenant Turner, report, sir. And he was writing at his desk. And he said to me, he looked at me and said, hey, Turner, an airborne ranger, right? And I said, who, sir? I'm an airborne ranger. I'm still standing at attention. And so he says to me, he says, well, Turner, how well do you score the PT test? At the time, we had a five-part PT test. And I said, 500, sir. And he said, 500? He said, well, how fast do you run the 2-mile run? And I said, sir, I do 2 miles in about 11 minutes or so. Now, at the time, we were in boots. We didn't wear tennis shoes back then, okay? About 11 minutes. So he put his pen down and he said, Turner, 11 minutes? He said, you think you can beat me in a 5-mile run? Now, this was a colonel, my brigade commander, okay? And I'm the second lieutenant reporting in, the first day in the unit. And so I looked across the desk and I said, sir, you asked me if I could beat you in a 2-mile, in a 5-mile run. I said, sure, sir, I can beat you in a 5-mile run. I'm an SC State Bulldog. Of course I'm going to red in the record. So he said, let's go. Lieutenant General retired Jack Ferris, who retired from TRAOC a few years back. Okay, was my very first brigade commander in the Army, a Citadel grad. As a second lieutenant, on the 10th of December 1976, he and I ran 5 miles at Sand Hills at Fort Benning, Georgia. I beat him by 2 steps. But he never forgot that, because he realized that I walked the talk, and I did exactly what I said I could do. Years later, he's now the second ID commanding general.
My point is that those bosses that you have, walk in with an open mind. Don't walk in with any prejudging, no inhibitions. Just go in. And if you've been talking to, if you've spoken to your NCOs, you've gotten feedback from the NCOs while you're in your MS3, MS4 year, I think you'll be prepared to do it. With the understanding that you can really face two scenarios of what you got there. Just be ready.
You know, everybody's jumped on this question, right? Everybody on the panel. Because we've all made mistakes. But what this shows you is this is not a zero defects army. Okay? That's what it shows you. Why are we here? It's because we've learned from our mistakes. We didn't make the same mistake 3 or 4 times. Right? But I will share a mistake that I made day one, first hour. And, you know, you sign into a unit, you go to the colonel, you report to the battalion commander, Lieutenant Richardson. I didn't bring a notebook. Right? And so he asked Richardson, do you have a photographic memory? Okay? No, sir, I don't. And see, but what I did do is I listened. Okay? And everybody up here is talking about listening. And you got to learn from your mistake. I can tell you, every meeting for the last 36 years, I've carried a notebook. And I've taken notes. Okay? And we up here notice that. Right? Do you have your notebook today? More importantly, you've got to listen. You've got to listen to your platoon sergeant. You've got to listen. You've got to ask questions because you're a lieutenant. And you're going to make mistakes. And you don't know what right looks like. Right? And before you can give orders, when you give an order, you should be able to do that yourself. That order. So somebody's going to need to teach you what right looks like. And then you can give that order. And you need to listen. And so go out there, make mistakes. For those lieutenants in my organization that were making mistakes, they weren't doing anything. Those were my bottom performers that did not make mistakes because they weren't doing anything. So go out there. We expect you to make mistakes. We expect you to learn from your mistakes. We expect you to listen. Be humble. Right? And don't make the same mistake twice. So you've heard from everybody up there. Everybody up there has made mistakes. But what is everybody, why are we where we are? It's because we've listened. Right? And I will tell you, my greatest moment is today. Speaking to you.
General West, ma'am, would you like to make any closing comments, or we'll have maybe just a few minutes for one question?
Wow, what discussion today, huh? What do you think? Hopefully you filled your notebooks, either virtual or actual paper with the great wisdom from this team. But it's really hard to sum up anything because it was such a great menu of great advice. One thing that I would just mention to you to take away as you choose mentors or who you listen to, don't sell anyone short, right? You never know who you can learn from. And some of my best mentors, and one of my best mentors is someone that I almost, I won't say discarded, but just decided that I could not learn anything from that person. And it ended up being one of my best mentors and is a friend today. And that was when I was a lieutenant colonel, 1st Armored Division surgeon, and then ran into an officer. He will mention it as well. He was a self-proclaimed redneck from Alabama. So automatically I said, okay, he doesn't like black people. I'm sure he doesn't like women in the Army. I'm sure he has. So I had all of these things that I had stacked up in my mind, and I said I need to stay away from him because this is going to be the end of my career if not. Well, he was married to a fellow, an aviator, so in the Army, so that blew that out. His roommate in college, West Point, was an African American, was a friend of his, and he didn't care what you were. And it was one of those individuals who basically said, he used to always tell me, hey, you know, Doc, I'm trying to get you promoted, you're fighting every step of the way. Because he would always give me ideas. And so I would just say, you can learn from everyone and never sell anyone short. It's always important. People want to see people who look like them. But reach out past your comfort level to all individuals because you can learn someone from everyone. More senior to you, more junior to you. I learn more from my juniors every day than I can learn from anyone that's above me. So take these opportunities like we have today, reach out and learn as much as you can, and I think you're all going to do a wonderful job when you go out there and take care of soldiers and continue to lead. Thanks for your time and opportunity.